at Manage Comics. Coming to you from a secret underground lair, these dedicated heroes discuss the business of comics, industry news, comic book retail issues, and the latest developments from Manage Comics. They are promoters of comics, champions of small business, and four-color heroes. They are the Manage Comics team. Welcome. It is Meanwhile at Manage Comics. It's Thursday, October 9th. It's my son's birthday. So I'm going to have to get out of here a little bit early today. So we're probably going to do a tight 30, but there's a lot of things to get through. And let's jump right into things. If you're here today, let us know in the comments and I'll bring you up and say hi. It's an interesting time. We've got a lot of really, really cool things going on and just trying to figure out exactly what we want to share and what we don't want to share right now. Because I don't really want to overpromise. I would rather underpromise and overdeliver. But there's a lot of things that are in play right now. And so and dates. Everybody wants dates for things, and I'm so tired of giving dates that are best guesses, and people then take them as gospel. So things are getting tough. Welcome. So Paul. Welcome Comic Carnival. Welcome Lunatech Comics. Welcome Michael Steenbergen. Mentally is debatable. I hear you, Paul. I hear you. Actually, last night is the first decent night's sleep I've had in quite a while. So I might actually be here mentally for the next little while. I'm going to start things off by talking a little bit about a retirement. Our old system, Manage Comics Classic, has been around since 2015. It was the first version of Manage Comics that we had built. It's based off of some kind of concepts that I had for years that I'd been using in the store All New Comics from 2005. So for about a decade, we had used that system. And we built it for Classic. And it was much different than the Managed Comics we know and love today. It was a streamlined catalog that we would update every month with about 120 products. It wasn't everything that was available. And it was fine until 2020. And then when things changed in 2020 with the new distributors, it just wasn't a great fit anymore. But we still had, as recently as 2 years ago, we had about 100 stores on it. We've slowly migrated them all over to our new platform. We had about 12 laggards that were still on it. And this week I said, we're going to have to get you guys off fairly soon because servers are dying. And at this point, retrofitting the necessary things to make it updatable just would take more effort than I think we'd have to rebuild servers from the ground up, and we'd have to, it's on like an ancient version of Rails. And so it just makes more sense to move people. Plus the options in Oryx now are so much greater than they were in the old system. So yeah, we're moving folks over. Love the shirt. Thank you. Slowly but surely, we're getting them over to the new system. And I expect that by the end of this week, I should have everybody that's on the old system into the new system. The old system is so old that the servers keep dying on me. So we're resetting the poor things like pretty much daily now. I think we actually have a morning task to reset servers. So yeah, that guy is being retired. And speaking of retirement, if you are familiar with our website at all, you've probably been to managecomics.com, which will take you to, let me just pull him up. This guy here. Oh, I almost hit end stream accidentally. Can you imagine? So yeah, if you're familiar with Managed Comics, you've probably been to this page. This is kind of our marketing-y page for Managed Comics. And it has links into all of our stuff, but over time it's kind of gotten ponderous. And during the whole, launch of the RMH product, I got so much like, what is managed comics? And it made me realize that we really needed to revamp everything, every word. So we spent the last like month or so, in between help calls and installing and building a system, just updating everything about what managed comics is. And we're about to launch this thing. I'll probably do it on Friday, maybe Sunday. And the reason is I still haven't, we just realized today I haven't imported any of the news blog posts. So we're only bringing over like probably a dozen blog posts from the old site because most of it just isn't applicable anymore. So yeah, this should be live before the end of the weekend, I think. Everything else is done. I need to do a bunch of redirects from old pages to new pages. But yeah, it's just cleaner. It is a little more kind of feature front. So it says like what we do, what are the benefits of managed comics, why should you have it? Um, there's a couple images I want to update. These are kind of older images, and we've got a whole new style for our images. So if you go to Ordo, you'll actually see our new kind of image style, which yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It was a lot of work, but it's one of those things that needed to get done, and I think it simplifies things a lot. Plus, we've got quick links into things like help, so you can go right into the Oryx help, or you can go into the Ordo help. And I think we also have to update the Shopify app so that it's actually called the right name as well. So we'll be doing all that stuff over the next week or so, which leads me into, I got to pull up my little rundown. Yeah, our next big feature is, so if you go to the homepage of the new managed comics, one of the things you're going to see is what systems do we work with. So right now we work with Shopify, obviously, work with RMH, obviously, and we have been building a Lightspeed integration, which is feature complete and in testing. And we're just waiting to talk to our Lightspeed contacts just to make sure that everything is working on their end. But so far, it's looking great. Like products and orders are going from managed comics into Lightspeed. While doing this, we realized that there's like a whole kind of workflow that we want to work on to make things even better. So now there's actually like error logs and things that you can see. So when something goes wrong, you'll actually see it in Lightspeed. So now that we've figured out how to do that, those are things that we definitely want to bring over to every version of managed comics. The other thing is RMH, which we're working on. We've been working, with RMH now for a couple months. We've got, I think, over 60 stores on RMH right now. And so we have been building, that's not the page I wanted. Oh no, that's not my RMH page. Let me just find our RMH page. There it is. So with RMH, what we have is a series of downloads. We're working with the RMH team to actually build a Windows service, which will actually import the products into RMH. So right now you have to download a file and then you have to upload that file into RMH. Our goal is to have a service where you would actually click a button in RMH and then it will bring all those products directly into RMH for you. And it will also create work orders, which are, the equivalent of a draft order in Shopify, or there's another name for them in Lightspeed. But that would bring the products into a cart, which you could then just pull up. So the reason we have to build it as a service is that the work orders thing isn't available through their straight API. So we need to build it as a separate service that will actually call out. And then we have to build it as a service that you trigger, because there's not always a persistent internet connection between RMH and managed comics. And we don't want to be polling every like 2 minutes. I just find that's a really inefficient way of doing things. So if you actually trigger that thing, then it will do the call and it will do all the pushing of everything. And yeah, we're pretty excited about that. I know that that is underway right now, so that is a pretty cool thing to be working on. Let's see, what else do I have to talk about? So we've done a number of changes, and it's funny because I was actually just before this looking at our change log for Oryx, and the last time I uploaded it was August 28th, and I assure you we have done a lot of stuff since August 28th. So apparently I need to do some updates on things that have been changed on Oryx, but so much has happened on Oryx. We're getting better at help documentation, but it's still got a long way to go. I had hoped to be on the new help system by now, which I was supposed to be onboarded like back at the beginning of October. So I was kind of holding off on building stuff until it was done. But at this point, I can't wait any longer. So I've got to build some more things. We're building our help a little different in Oryx than I did in Managed Comics. And I did a bunch of research on like kind of what are the best practices for help. And in the beginning, I built everything exactly as the best practices said, but I've kind of started deviating and adding a lot more screenshots because I think screenshots are super important to understand, the flow of how things work. So yeah, we're going to still use most of the format that has been recommended. So it's like, what does this feature do? When do you use it? What are the prerequisites, key terms? Those are all great. But I think from there on, the step-by-step stuff, I'm going to have a lot more images in because it's the stuff that I think you need to see visual representations of in order to actually understand how it works. So yeah, we can just expect more and more of this to happen. I am going to add the same workflows that we have on Ordo. So these workflows, I want to add the same kind of stuff, approving new subscribers, adding a customer, editing a customer's subscriptions, all those things need to be here. And right now they're just in multiple different places. So I think I'll just create workflows that also link into how you do those things. I'm really happy with where Oryx is right now. And I think it's just going to get better over time. Let's see. Let's take a look at some of the recent changes. So this is back in August. Yeah, we really improved the search. And actually, this improved search is going to come over to Ordo soon. This just makes it easier when you're searching for a product in Managed Comics to find it because you can now narrow things down by publisher. There's a finite amount of records we can call back in Ordo, in either one of them in Managed Comics. So this means that if we say, only A covers and I search for Batman, I'm probably going to find Batman, the new title, and not Batman, the Ghost Who Haunted Christmas Past, because it shows based on recency as well. So like the most recent thing. Export files in RMH, obviously. Supplier codes, which were an important thing in RMH in order to map your supplier codes to your products in RMH. We're really clarifying a bunch of labels, and it's interesting because it's actually led me to look at a bunch of different things. For example, in Managed Comics, if you want to download all your subscribers, there's a download customers button. That is not the customers button. It's actually every every subscription and every special order by customer. We added special orders to that report recently, and it's made the report take a lot longer to generate. So we actually had to create an email system to send those reports because sometimes they take longer than 2 minutes to generate. Our download time is 2 minutes, then the server time's out. So we now have to send an email. But of course, if you're doing that on your account in Ordo and the emails all go to the admin, you now have to email the admin to get that file. So now we have to build a separate page that has all those downloads. So little things like that, like you don't consider all the ramifications when you do a thing. Like adding the pre-orders just made sense to me, but now that file takes longer to generate and it times out. So we have to do this thing to make that work. And everything is so much harder than you think it will be. Twice as hard, 3 times as expensive, and takes 4 times as long. It's pretty much the rule of everything. From Ordo, the current managed comics, I think the last time that we talked, we had just introduced the email targeted lists. So you can now send a list of email to just, for example, if I want to send an email to just our Batman subscribers, I can go into Manage Comics and add a targeted list and say Batman, and then it'll create a customer segment. So right now this list only has 2 customers because I have 2 customers for Deadpool. But when I add Batman, then it adds an additional 11. But of those 11, one of them is subscribed to Deadpool. So we're going to only send it out to 11 people and not 13 people. Or sorry, we'll send it to 12 people and not 13 people because one of them is on both. So yeah, this is really useful for me personally. I use it in my store in order to send emails out to, like for the Deadpool Batman, I sent out emails for Batman Deadpool just this week, just to say, hey, you were subscribed to the last thing. Just make sure you're subscribed to this. And I think going forward, this will be a really, really good thing to build kind of, look-alike audiences that you can send emails to. You don't have to send them about just Managed Comics things either. If you have a creator coming in or something and you want to send an email to everybody who is subscribed to any of that creator's books, you can build that list here and then send it. And I would like to eventually make this a downloadable list that you can then create in your email program. So like in MailChimp or Shopify, you can create segments. And if you have a downloadable list of emails, you should be able to generate a segment list in your email program. So yeah, this is, phase 1 of something that I think can be really, really powerful in the future. We also talked about email variables, which I think we've gone through. The variables in email campaigns, oops, that's the wrong one, allow you to basically set, so there's like a variable, where is it? It's not showing it here. Variable is start date and end date. And if you leave that alone, if you change the start date or end date in either your body or your subject, it will actually update those based on whatever you change it to. This is another one that I'd love to change in the future so that we can kind of create a default pull list email and then set it to go out every Wednesday at, let's say, 12 noon or 8 a.m. or whatever you want it to go. Because this is the number one thing I forget to do every week. So I would love to, for my own selfish reasons, set this and forget it. And then be able to like update it whenever I want to, if I want to kind of override it. By the way, if anybody has questions, now's a great time to ask questions because then I'm just not talking. I think everybody has seen the disable, and if not, this is in both versions of Managed Comics. This needs some pictures. We've added a button to disable customers instead of just a checkbox. And the reason we did that is because the checkbox could get accidentally clicked. If you were on a page and you were near that disable button and you clicked the screen to activate it, which is kind of an instinctive thing, sometimes it will disable that customer. And then you might take a few days to realize, wait, Bob Jones is missing. Why is Bob Jones missing? And you go back and you see that you had clicked that. So now it's a button, which is much harder. And it also lets you add some notes. So for example, Bruce Wayne goes away for the summer and says, hey, I'm going to go away. Do you mind if I pause my account? You can disable Bruce Wayne for the summer and then say that he is a customer in good standing. We've had a couple of people ask us if we can set a start date to the disabling and maybe even an end date. That's an excellent like phase 2 enhancement for this for sure. So for now, it is just kind of a one-time thing. And as soon as you do it, they're disabled. But I think definitely setting a disable date and a re-enable date would make a lot of sense. Customer page logic, yeah. We fixed a whole bunch of bugs. So you can see these things just by, if you go to managedcomics.com and click on the change log, you can see all the changes at any time. And we usually will update these in the app as well with like a little banner announcement. We also updated the, I actually need to find this one. This one's really cool. So quantities on pull lists now have a, what do they call it? A pill around the quantity. And then if you actually print it, it puts attention to remind you, give you a visual indicator that this is a more quantity. Because when we do our polls, the number of times that we get to the end of the poll and there's 5 comics left and we go, oh, okay, who had 2? So now, since we added this, I think like 2 weeks ago, we've had flawless pulls. So I'm super excited about that. So yeah, that's really good. And then we just made this stuff consistent between the pulls by date and check-ins. The other thing we'll be rolling out to Ordo at some point is the ability for you to filter by distributor. So if you're on pulls by date and you just want to see pulls you did from Penguin Random House last week, it'll show you just those. There was also a weird glitch on sign up where the pre-order button, you had to click it multiple times. There was a weird JavaScript glitch that we fixed. And then for our Diamond UK friends, we've got FOC and initial order stuff coming in. I had to pause the initial orders last week because we got to do some stuff with the dates. Unfortunately, Diamond UK dates are overwriting our lunar dates on FOC things because the system is still convinced that Diamond is the source of truth, which is not true. Can we add? Yeah, you can add customers again. We just added that for Oryx. You can always add, you can always ask questions, Christina. So we're talking everything. Right now, actually, we're just talking Ordo stuff. That's what I've been working on. Birthday munch. Yeah, that's a great idea. We can definitely look at adding more data to Ordo. Ideally, the stuff we're doing with customers right now is kind of temporary. Once we get the full connection going between the different point of sales, I really, really want the point of sale system to be your source of truth for everything. And then we'll just get ID information. I don't want to be bringing over all of your customer information. I'd really like to bring as little as possible, just the stuff that identify them. So over time, I think we'll get better at that stuff. And then you would keep your birthday month in your point of sale. And that's where it kind of makes the most sense. Lunatic asks, is there a capability to send an FOC email? Not yet, but that's a definite, that's something I personally want. So we'll definitely be building that out in the future for sure. There's a couple little kind of data pieces we need to put in place that will make that possible. There's also like, we almost want to be able to have you highlight a number of FOC things that you want to put in. The reason is an email with like, let's say, I don't know, 150, 200 items in it is going to get cut off pretty quickly in email programs. So maybe highlighting, 10 and then having a button that will take you to all of your FOCs might make a little more sense. So yeah, that's definitely something we'll look at. It's something, like I said, so I run Earth 519. I think I've talked about this before. And so I use Managed Comics myself. It's on my website. And a lot of the things that we're adding now are things that, I feel the pain of, and other people will tell us that they're painful, but until you feel the pain of something, you don't really know how painful it is. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a terrible person who hasn't listened to everybody's pain all the time. Some of these things are super easy too, right? Like if there's something where we can add a visual indicator for something and it literally takes 15 seconds to code, like why wouldn't we? And it's not adding any strain on the system. It's a visual indicator. Those kind of things like we'll do very, very quickly. Sometimes people don't even know that something's a pain point until they live through that pain point. So yeah, that's definitely something that's always in our mind. Um, that kind of does it for all of our change logs. Like I said, if you're looking for what we've done recently, just go to in Manage Comics in the actual app. There's a link to the help on the left side. Just click on that. That will take you to help pages. And then you can click on the change log, which will show you where changes have happened. You can also click on feature requests and make requests, and you can vote on these requests. There is a different set of those for uh, or Oryx. I don't know if they're so it's not available yet. So I just got to enable the ideas um, option on Oryx. So once we enable that, you'll be able to click on here, change log updates, and add ideas as well. So if you've got something you'd like to see added, definitely add it there. That brings me to kind of a little bit of the future and where we see this stuff going. I think after the Lightspeed integrations, we've realized that probably the future is we will eventually move everyone to Oryx, and it'll be seamless behind the scenes. You won't even know. And then Shopify will just be one of the things that Oryx does instead of there being a separate Shopify app. That way, when you make one change, it can happen for everybody. And the way that we're doing things now with endpoints and stuff means that it doesn't really matter what system we're using. The main managed comic stuff never changes. It's just where that stuff is going to go will change. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that that will make a big difference in terms of like our ability to make one change and have it flow out to all the systems. And I think also it just makes more sense from like an app standpoint, but also communication going forward, where we're not saying for Ordo, you do this, for Oryx, you do this, just having kind of one system. And then that system would be a Rosetta Stone that will work with everything. I have multiple locations, but only one invoice. Will this work with multiple location check-ins? So no, because one invoice. So you right now you need an invoice per location. So if you're having, we don't have a concept of like, I'm going to check in all my products for this. I'm going to check in this invoice for multiple products. We don't have that kind of concept yet. That might be something we look at down the road as we've started using multi-location. And this is one of the reasons that I resisted it so long. There's like 20 different ways that you can do multi-location. And it's adding a lot of complexity that I didn't foresee. So right now, kind of one location, one invoice is the way it works. And I understand that this is an issue. Like a lot of places will receive in a warehouse and then federate that stuff out to multiple stores. That's just not how it's built right now. But I think in order to do that, I kind of want to be on one code base. So if we can hold off on that for a little while, I think it'll make a lot more sense. Just because otherwise we've got to do all this work twice. And sometimes we're doing things for like 5 people and putting off work that we need to do for everybody. And I really don't want to do that anymore, because that's how we got to not releasing anything for 6 months this year, because we were working on multi-store, which now that we're here and that it's mostly bug free after 2 months of me losing even more hair, I feel pretty good. But that 6 months of kind of losing steam really impacted the stuff we did this year. We did not get to any of the really cool things that I wanted to do this year, but we managed to replace an entire system that was dead. So, the Comic Suite people, I think, are in a much better place than they were at the beginning of the year, which is thankful. Speaking of Comic Suite, so tomorrow morning, I am sitting down with a good. Oh no, I stopped sharing my screen. What have I done? Sitting down with a good friend of mine who is taking on the role of our DevOps guy going forward. So he will be our kind of server maintainer. And then that way Taras can actually work on the dev part of DevOps and he can work on the ops part of DevOps. So Mike and I are sitting down tomorrow morning and we'll be working on getting comic previews into our QA environment. And then very quickly, we'll be able to promote that to production. So comic previews is the front end for Oryx. And it's going to be a little different than the way that we did things with Shopify in that it will be its own kind of domain and you will have a store on that domain. Our goal is to have a store listing as well. And anybody that uses Ordo will have a link on that listing. And then it will take the customer to your Ordo page, to your Shopify page with your previews. So that's our goal right now is to have this whole like ecosystem where everybody lives on this thing and then it just takes you to your page based on where you are. When they're on your page, the site will look like your site. If it obviously takes you to Shopify, it's going to be your site. If it's within comic previews and it's Bob's Comics, it'll look like Bob's Comics. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about this. If you are excited about this or you want your customers to be excited about this, have them get on the comics previews waitlist. And this will be going live very soon. And then over time, we'll be adding more and more features. The first phase is just going to be kind of a data dump. So if you've ever been in Manage Comics and clicked on a product in the admin, it takes you to a Geek Fetch page. Those pages will eventually get replaced with these comic previews pages, just because they're going to have more data for one thing. They're going to be more attractive. And there's also like links in those to other series pages. So if you wanted to see a B cover on a product, you could actually get from the A cover to the B cover and look at it really quickly. So yeah, that will be down the road. But for sure, in the next 4 days, 20 hours, and 23 minutes, there will be something replacing this on the site. So I'm pretty excited about this guy. Christina, excited? Yeah. And then kind of the end goal with the way that we've built all this stuff is that this chewy middle of comic previews, which is where kind of the product information lives, will replace your Managed Comics chewy middle in Shopify at some point. So yeah, it's definitely something cool that will be coming down the road. And I'm super excited about this because this is the kind of thing that can replace Previews World, which, is essentially dead now. And we still need that resource as a community. So yeah, that's one more thing down the road. Yeah, I had on my list of things to do to talk about meta fields, but I don't know if we really want to talk about this stuff today. I'll give you a quick kind of overview on something kind of cool that I built into my Shopify store that was really, really easy and could be built into any Shopify store. So for example, Age of Revelation, I've built a page on my website for the Age of Revelation stuff. I'm using Shopify Flow to tag this stuff with Age of Revelation, but this is definitely something that we could be tagging in Managed Comics a little bit better. And then when I have that tag, now I can actually create this page. So this page is just a meta page, which has a background image, it has a title, it has a little blurb, and then it has a link to the collections for Age of Revelations. That means that this page isn't something I manually created. I just added some data to my Shopify, which allows this page to get generated. Same for all these things. And I use the term storylines, but I realize it's wrong. It should be like themes or something like that. These are relatively easy to build with a combination of Shopify Flow and also the meta objects that are in Shopify. You can build these things fairly quickly. And then this page here, this storylines page, is just a liquid file that is pulling in all my storylines with some styling. So it's something I can definitely make available to other people. But what's really, really interesting about this page is that my SEO on Absolute Universe has really, really skyrocketed because I have an absolute universe page. All these products get tagged in the background with absolute universe. So I just literally look for any DC products that have absolute in them, and then I add them to a collection, or I add them to a I add them I add a tag to them. Sorry. Um, and then from there, they just get generated into a collection, which looks for that tag and uh, quantity of greater than 0. So that way I know that my collection isn't going to have a bunch of sold out products. And then these are just some things that I've added into my template, my page template. And at some point, I'd love to go over this stuff with you guys and just show how I'm doing some of this stuff, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do a lot of this stuff. And if you're doing it the right way, you're going to get much better results than if you're doing it the wrong way, in terms of having, if you do this kind of integration into the pages the wrong way, then it limits your ability to update your pages in the future. But if you do it the right way, you're a lot more flexible when theme updates happen and stuff like that. So that's kind of a future us thing that we can go through. It's pretty fun. It's one of those like nerd things that I'll do late at night where I go, hey, I'd love to do a thing. And then I will sit there and work on that thing. We could also talk about auctions, which I just did a episode of Comic Insiders Live about auctions, and there's a really great plugin for Shopify that lets you do auctions. Yeah, that's kind of, so that's a little bit of a tease, I think, for the next episode. Okay, got a question here. Yes, please. I'd love to know how you've done that. I have things I want to do for my site, but I just don't have that expertise. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is fairly straightforward, and you can, Shopify has a little thing called Sidekick, which is an AI thing. You can use that when you're in your theme to ask it specific questions around how would I add a section for this thing. And I've used some of that to figure out stuff, but it's honestly broken most of the time. Comic Carnival says, is there a way to give an employee a non-admin login to manage comics so they can check polls but not change them? Not at this time. And we're going to have to be really, really judicious about what kinds of different logins we create, because we could go down a whole rabbit hole of creating granular login things. I'm going to say right now, Manage Comics is intended to be a simple solution. If you need super, super granular credentials, then we are not the right solution for you. Comic Hub might be a better solution for you, because I know that they can do really, really granular things. Our intention is to be really, really simple. The more of that stuff we add, you add more technical debt to your overall project, and it gets harder to do things in the future. So I'm not, it's one of those things where if we got enough requests for it, we would look at it. I think more likely we will create admin logins that allow them to have access to like settings and stuff like that. But checking polls but not changing them is so granular that I can't imagine how we would even do that off the top of my head. Maybe there would be like a check-in option, but not a customers option. We can kind of look at stuff over time and see what makes sense. I think I wonder if I can pull up just like a random screenshot of Managed Comics. If I could, where I would see us being able to do something is kind of at the side menu level, but not at the inside menu level, if that makes sense. Like, it'd be easy for us to remove the option to change settings. It'd be harder for us to remove the option to change email settings within the settings. So if that makes sense at all, yeah. See polls, but not change them. So again, that probably gets to being able to view check-ins but not create a check-in. I don't know. That's getting a little dicey. You could also say, "Don't click on this button or I'll fire you." That might work. Uh, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything I've missed this week. I think that's it. Our next, so if you're looking for us next week, Thursday, at let me find out. I'm gonna have to go to my own website to actually figure out when it's gonna be. Next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're gonna do a new thing called office hours. I'm gonna schedule it from like 2 till 3, and I'll just have basically a Zoom link open. So this link and the link on the old site will be available later today. And it'll just be a Zoom link that you can come and hang out and ask me questions very informally. If you've got anything you want to know, that's a perfect place to ask. Ordo, Oryx, Shopify, whatever you want to ask, feel free to ask it, and we'll be around. Craig and I will be sitting there answering questions for an hour or so, and I think that's it. Other than that, you can find me every week at on Comic Industry Insiders Live at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays. And I'm going to get back in a habit of doing these every other week. So you'll have this kind of thing once every 2 weeks, and then we'll archive it and have it available as well. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff coming up in the next little while. And then I think things are changing enough regularly right now that we can talk about all the cool stuff that we're working on. So there we go. All right. If you have any other questions for us, please feel free to send an email to help@managedcomics.com, and we will get back to you. Comic Suite Victim here. In your experience, would you recommend Shopify over RMH? Not necessarily. If you're used to RMH and all your processes run through RMH, you can update RMH. So just contact Sean at MCS, hit me an email at help@managedcomics.com, and I can send you his info. He will update your RMH and get it all running super fast. And then he'll even help you with the import into Managed Comics. So we've been doing this now for, I think, 2 months. And we've got, I think, like 60 or 70 people that are using Oryx with RMH, and they love it. It's doing all the things that they wanted Comic Suite to do and more. So if you're happy with what you're doing, you don't really need e-commerce right now, I say don't change until you need to change. That's a much different conversation than I would have had a year ago. But I think the world is a little different than it was a year ago. And our goal is not to change your processes. It's to help you survive and thrive in the new world as it is. So yeah, it's up to you. If you want to go to a new system, we're definitely here to help you out with that. But I think that sticking with what you know might make sense at this point. So there you go. I hope that answers that. That felt as clear as mud. With that said, I think that's going to wrap it up. I got to go pick up my son and take him over to a trampoline park for the rest of the day. So I'm out of here. I will be back online in about an hour after I get back from dropping him off. And if anybody has questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to help@managedcomics.com. And we will see you next Thursday, October 16th at 2 p.m. for office hours, or the following Thursday at 3 p.m. for our next Meanwhile at Managed Comics. Thanks, everyone.